Welcome to the Loaded Box Podcast,
where we never finish first because we finish last.
Thank you once again for tuning into the Loaded Box Podcast. I am Ben. That was DJ. I want to start this one off by saying sorry to a group that I ended up getting a little bit drunk on Saturday night. And if you listen to the last episode, we were looking for a group to come onto the podcast and talk about Tyreek Hill and why they like him. We had something set up and little miscommunication. I got drunk. I said some things I might regret, so I owe them an apology. So I want to apologize on the podcast, and I will be sending you a direct message shortly. So hopefully we can have you guys on in the near future because we asked for it. And then Fireball and Jack Daniels took control of my Twitter, so my bad.
To be fair, they probably will understand because, beer is in the name of their podcast.
It's not that one. It's a different one.
Oh, it's not. Oh, shit, I don't know then.
So now I have no excuse.
Hopefully they're a little more understanding then.
I think they understand our podcast, and they know that we enjoy drinking. We'll enjoy a drink now and then during the podcast, and we're here. We're going to give you good football insights, but we're going to have a good time doing it. So don't take any offense by it.
I'm going to send you fucking weird messages. It might happen.
Yeah, and you're going to like it.
If it's past 12 o'clock, just ignore it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Maybe we should throw that thing on our Twitter account, almost like a parental control, like you can set on your TV.
Yeah.
We should do that for Twitter if that's a thing.
Yeah. Especially for you dumbass.
Nice. Well, thanks a lot. Should we break some quick news, or do you want to wait on that?
I think we should just tease that there will be something coming up in the near future. That's pretty big news for us.
Yeah, it
is.
is.
A small-time podcaster so far.
We've got a couple of cool things in the works. One of them being, I don't want to give too much away, but we have been allowed permission to, maybe we'll be at NFL team's training camp this year. How's that for a teaser?
I don't know. We might have credentials. I don't know. I can't tell.
We might be going. We might be doing some podcasting from a training camp this year. So we're looking.
No team specifics. We'll tell you the team later, but we may or may not be at a training camp with some real live NFL players. No big deal.
So stay tuned for some more of that because we're definitely looking forward to it. At least DJ is.
Yeah, I know I am.
But this week we're doing this is kind of like the James Bond edition of fantasy football, if you ask me.
Yeah, something.
It's the fantasy football Hitman edition, and what we mean by that is we're each going to single out a couple of players that we have our sights set in on. It's like we're snipers right here, and
they're on our hit list.
They're on our hit list. It's guys that we're going to target come draft day.
Yeah.
So
we're going to get right to our what's that called, crosshairs, and we're going to snipe them.
We're sniping them. So without further ado, do you want to kick off the first guy on your hit list?
I'm going to go with my less exciting guy. First off,
okay,
and save my better. I think the one that'll people will have more.
Full of teasers today. Full of teasers.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm gonna go with Devontae Adams. Now I know he's not like a not a mid-round guy. He had a pretty good season, touchdowns, but I think people are still kind of down on him. I feel like they still kind of think about the 2 years ago season that he had where he was dropping balls, and he still dropped some balls last year. But as a Packer fan and maybe you can call me a homer, but I watched this guy play more than anybody. He had 12 touchdowns last year. That's and 997 yards in 2016. And I honestly think another year with Ray Rodgers, another healthy year. I projected him so far. My projection for him this next year is 1,200 plus yards, 10 touchdowns. I think his touchdown numbers may go down a little bit. Martellus Bennett's there, but I still am. I want him as the number one wide receiver on my team, so I have a feeling I'm going to reach higher for him based off of that. I mean, he's still got the best quarterback and offense, arguably the best offense. I don't think it's an arguable offense, but as far as the best quarterback goes in the league, so he's got the best quarterback, one of the best offenses in the league, and it seems as if he's kind of in that taking over as number one wide receiver transition, where we saw as Packer fans, Donald Driver to Greg Jennings to Jordy Nelson. Right. That slowly happened, and now I think it's going Jordy Nelson to Devontae. I think you're going to continue to see that develop even more this year. And Also, to add to that, Jordy's going to continue to get double coverage rolled his way yet this year, so that's just going to put Adams in one-on-one situations where he's been very successful, where he's beaten guys just right off the first step. That's when he's at his best, when you've got a guy one-on-one with him. That's when he's been killing guys. So I'm super high on Devontae. I think he could finish top 5 easily. He was number 9 last year, so I don't think that's out of reach at all. I just don't think people are looking at him like that because of Jordy Nelson, because of Randall Cobb, because of Martellus Bennett. He had 16 end zone targets last year. He was 5th in the league. So he's targeted in the end zone. He's an athletic guy. Guy can jump. I don't know if anybody has seen his off-season, basketball dunking highlights. Guy can get up and high point a ball, and he clearly improved his concentration from the year before. And I think he's just going to get more confident and more balls his way the more he goes. And last thing I'll throw in there is he was the model of consistency. He had 11 games last year with 10-plus fantasy football points. So it's not like he just had touchdowns and sparing, like 3 touchdowns in one game, 3 touchdowns in another. He spread it out across the season.
Yeah, one thing I want to ask you, give me 1 second here. One thing I want to ask you, so right now, Davante Adams is projected, his average draft position is about the 5th pick in the 4th round. So in the 4th round, you're taking him pretty early. So as the 19th receiver, so you've already got 12. So he's kind of a
19th receiver?
Yeah, he's kind of like a lower end wide receiver, like wide receiver 2 right now.
Yeah, I love that.
So what I want to ask you is, would it be a strategy of yours? Because you said you're comfortable with him as your top receiver, correct?
Yes.
Would you be comfortable if you had let's say you have a later pick in the 1st round, would you be comfortable if a running back fell to you and you liked him, going running back, and then scooping up Adams potentially in the 3rd round instead of waiting to the 4th? Would you want to maybe see if you could sneak into the 4th round with him?
I think that's my goal. I think that's what I want to do. I want to go running back, especially if I get a later pick. And as I gave away my wide receiver, I don't want to give away the running back. I think I can get that top 5 as well. But I think there's a really good running back out there. I can grab him in the 1st round. And then I can grab another one in the 2nd round because I like to stack those running backs to see who can pop. And then I'm more than comfortable with Davante Adams as my number 1 wide receiver. So if I grab him in the 3rd round, I'm happy.
Yeah, the thing is, too, like we're just like a year removed from the zero running back strategy, like kind of taking off and becoming a thing. And then people realized, like, with how good Bell and Zeke and David Johnson and LaShawn McCoy, Melvin Gordon, all those guys did. It's not as much of a thing anymore. So I think running backs are going to be going. So you might be onto something there where maybe you should take 2 right away, especially if you're comfortable with Adams being your first receiver. That might not be too bad of a strategy.
I love his potential. The only problem is we live in the state of Wisconsin, so I might not be the only one looking at him where I'm not being homerish where most people do. I'm typically the guy who doesn't draft Packer players. Everybody in our draft leagues draft Packer players because we're in Wisconsin. But in normal type draft leagues, I think I'd easily be the one that got him more times than not.
What about, so Jordy right now is, according to the average draft position website I'm currently looking at, Jordy is the 6th ranked receiver.
I knew it. I knew he'd be higher, and I'd take Devontae over. When I come out with my rankings, I can guarantee you I have Devontae 2 or 3 spots ahead of Jordy Nelson.
And do you think that, because Nelson really made a lot of his points with red zone touchdowns last year.
Yeah, yes,
so
absolutely.
That almost seems like it might not be sustainable.
Yeah, and Devontae still takes a lot of targets as well, and they've got the new addition of the big tight end who's going to be great in that red zone.
Oh, true.
So I'm worried that he's not going to get his full speed back. That deep ball, you're not going to see those 60 and 70-yard touchdowns out of Jordy like you used to anymore, and that's what people are thinking they're going to get out of him this year. I just don't think that's going to happen.
Right. So Davante Adams is your must-have receiver because you're going to go receiver running back, you said.
I
in this podcast anyways.
Yes, exactly.
Cool. Alrighty, well, I'm going to end up going with 2 receivers, and the first guy that I'm going to talk about is currently the 31st ranked receiver with an average draft position of the 2nd pick in the 7th round, and it's the Redskins' Jamison Crowder. And coincidentally, I looked back to my rankings. I actually have him as the 31st ranked receiver as well. So I feel like I'm higher on him than a lot of people, but apparently I'm not. So I might have to jump up a little bit higher to get him. But a couple of the reasons why I do want him though, so as we clearly talked about and everyone knows, the Redskins lost D. Jackson, Pierre Garcon. So in terms of who's most comfortable with Kirk Cousins right now, outside of Jordan Reed, it's definitely Jamison Crowder. Last year, Crowder was third on the team in targets with 97, behind the two that left. And then last year, he also led the team with 7 touchdowns, which was the second most touchdowns from the slot of any single player in the NFL. So he's really emerged that was just his second year in the league. So he's already emerged as one of the better slot guys in the league. I'm thinking a lot of people are going to be super high on Terrell Pryor, but I think he's kind of far from proven at this point, along with Josh Doxson. And then when you think about Jordan Reed, you kind of always worry about injury with him as well. So there's going to be some doubters because of the people that are Terrell Pryor truthers and everything, but I think the other people that are going to be down on Crowder are going to be down on him because of his size. He's 5'9", but he was tied for third in the league in catch rate on his deep passes. He was the shortest player in the entire top 10 in that. So he's proven that he can get down the field and still make plays on a ball. If you even just watch a little bit of film on him, he can go get it. He tracks the ball well. He actually does a really good job on deep routes, which not a lot of people thought of him from the slot. Another thing when you're playing with Kirk Cousins, as you say, Kirk Cousins throws for 5,000 yards. The touchdowns weren't there, but Kirk Cousins was tagged again. You know that there's pressure on him to put up big numbers and land that contract. Another reason why I think they're going to continue to throw the ball, Redskins obviously have question marks at running back. You hate Matt Jones. It doesn't sound like he'll end up even being there. You're not a big fan of Fat Rob Kelly. I don't think anyone's super high on him. Most people are higher on Samaje Perine, and I just don't have a ton of faith in him right now. So with the amount of question marks they have at running back, I think they're going to be continuing to throw it. So he's in that third season. That's that time where receivers break out. Get this as well. We talked about his PPR, or not his PPR, but his ADP being in the 7th round right now. If you're in a PPR league, his ADP actually jumps to the 5th round. So people are pretty high on him in PPR leagues.
Yeah.
You talked about a prediction. My prediction for Crowder is 80-plus catches, over 1,000 yards, and matching his total of 7 touchdowns last year. And based on those current rankings, if he is the 31st receiver gone, he's a wide receiver 3 or a flex guy, and I am super pumped with that. So I'm actually going to probably target him, depending on how the draft goes, in the 6th round, especially if you're in a league that starts 3 receivers. I'm all about Crowder in the 6th round.
Well, as I told you, and you all have heard before, I'm not a Kirk Cousins fan. I don't think he's going to have a good year. I think he's going to be one of those busts. That being said, Crowder, I think, could be a good flex guy if you can get him in that position. He does seem to run really good routes and track the ball pretty well from what I've seen of him. I guess the thing that worries me is Kirk Cousins and that locker room. That's my biggest worry. Is like, what's going to happen in that locker room this year? What's going to happen with everybody? I don't know what to think of what's going to happen. It's going to be a mess. I don't think there's any doubt that that's going to be a mess, but Kirk Cousins still wants to play somewhere, so he's going to come out there and he's going to try to ball out. And Crowder's one of those great slot corners who's really quick and can get out of his break really fast and gives every position trying to cover him just all sorts of fit. So whether it's a linebacker trying to cover him in a zone where he has a 2-way break and gets to sit in a hole, or just good things for slot wide receivers is option routes. So if he gets option routes like that, like a Julian Edelman, like Wes Welker did with them, he could be very effective in that. But I'm probably not going to end up drafting many Redskins players, if any at all, because of the fact that I don't like Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
But I don't hate it.
I'm a big fan of that whole thing, like not picking players from crappy teams.
Yeah, absolutely.
Today we did our pre-podcast poll. We improvised a little bit. Instead of a poll, we asked our Twitter followers at Loaded Box who they targeted as some must-haves. And there were some players on there from some crappy teams. And when I think of must-haves, I'm just like, you know what? No player that's on that bad of a team can really be a must-have for me because
Absolutely not.
the fact that they're not scoring points in fantasy, you can get by with the guy that has like medium to somewhat low touchdown numbers if he balls out with yards and catches. But
Yeah.
you're already in a hole if you're not going to try to get touchdown numbers out of a receiver, especially a guy that you're going to want to start every week. So I don't know. We had a couple of interesting things. Check that out on Twitter, and if you want to tweet your must-haves at us, by all means do so. We had some good ones. A couple of guys that I know I was considering putting on this list as well, but I just don't. When I think of must-haves, I want people in good situations, and I'm not as low on Kirk Cousins as you are. I think the yards are there. Like you said, his touchdowns were low, but Crowder had 7 touchdowns last year as a second-year guy, and I just think receivers, they either take that next step in the third year or they kind of stay who they are. And I really feel like, I mean, Crowder, man, that's Michael Jordan this shit. The ceiling is the roof. I really, really like this guy. So 6th round, I like Crowder.
Coming it off of what you said on the bad teams, I don't know why I keep seeing guys talk about Jets wide receivers or running backs. Like anytime I've seen somebody mention Jets wide receiver or whatever position player as a must-have, I just roll my eyes thinking you are a desperate, just ignorant homer Jets fan right now, and I can't even respond to that because, like, the Niners had some of the worst fantasy players in the world last year. Just awful. The Jets are them this year, but worse. I really believe that.
I do have a feeling, though, that maybe it's not a starter. That's why I wouldn't consider him a must-have. Like, so one of the guys I really like is Pierre Garçon. I think he's going to be the man in San Francisco. The problem with San Francisco is nobody can be the man. No one's going to be crazy enough to have a must-have. So if I can get Pierre Garçon as like my 4th, 5th receiver, I'd probably be okay with that because I think if anyone can break out, it'd be him a little bit. But to consider him a must-have, I can't go that far.
No, I don't want anybody on San Francisco. I don't want anybody on New York. So.
Yeah, man. I'm with you. The Jets, dude, the Jets have the potential to be one of the worst teams maybe of all time this year.
Oh, yeah, they're bad. They are bad.
Just take a look at that roster and try to find a bright spot. I mean, they have a little bit of help on the defensive line. They drafted some young safeties, but they're not going to perform year one just as Hall of Famers, you know. They're not going to turn it around that quick.
They're going to be bad.
Let's go on to your second guy. Let's hit up your running back.
All right, here he comes. This is going to be the one I know many people aren't going to agree with. I know some people will. That's why I like this one. I am highly targeting, I've said it before, I'm taking Leonard Fournette. I'm going to be the one drafting him. So you mentioned that running back, wide receiver. I'll probably go running back, Leonard Fournette, Devontae Adams.
Okay.
That'll probably be my first 3 picks. Like, I bet you that's what I do, and I'll be more than happy. Because in my opinion, I think I'll be getting 2 number 1 running backs on one team and a number 1 wide receiver. So, just college stats here for you. Fournette, I know he had his injury problems, but he played 32 games. He had 3,830 rushing yards and 40 touchdowns in those 32 games he plays. So if you average that out, that's about 120-ish, just under, yards per game, 1.25 touchdowns per game. So he's averaging a touchdown a game in the games that he's over a touchdown per game in the games that he's played. I don't even know where to go here. Do I talk about the Jags offense? Do I talk about their predictions for the offensive line? Let's go with the fact that they took him with the 4th pick this year in the draft, and they had 2 running backs on that team. That should tell you enough, as they plan to get him the ball. There's not going to be a running back by committee situation. They're going to feed him the ball, and they're going to feed him the ball to give Blake Bortles help. They're going to run a lot. He's going to get all the goal line carries. They're going to give Blake Bortles help so he doesn't have to wing the ball as much as he did, and they're going to try to slow the game down. They have a young and talented defense. Really young, really talented defense. Combine that with a good running game to keep opposing offenses at bay, keep them off the field, and your defense fresh, they could go opposite of what they've been doing, slow a game down, and keep it low scoring as opposed to scoring all their points. Blake Bortles throwing for a lot of yards and touchdowns in the 4th quarter. So I think they're going to kind of switch it up. Like, let their defense keep them in games, play it slowly, keep offenses at the game so their defense is fresh when they come back on the field. Also, PFF has Pro Fantasy Football, according to Pro Fantasy Football Focus.
Pro Football Focus?
Pro Football Focus and all fantasy and football focus. Pro Football Focus has the Jags predicted as the 13th best offensive line going into 2017. They added Brandon Albert from your Miami Dolphins. And they have a very underrated, very good run-blocking center in Brandon Linder, who graded very high last year. They have a pretty good run-blocking offense. I think they're like their team that reminds me of kind of like the Bears when it comes to run-blocking. You don't realize how good their run-blocking is. And that's probably because you didn't get to see it that much because those running backs are just garbage there.
Well, I think they had to abandon the run so much.
Yeah, exactly. And they didn't have Brandon Albert. They had some garbage. I can't remember the name of the offensive lineman they had. He was just one of the lowest graded linemen there was in run blocking that they don't have to worry about now. So, just on the combination of those things, puts me more than in love with Leonard Fournette and his Adrian Peterson freakish size and speed, and he's going to come in here and he's going to be able to run over these NFL professional defensive players immediately. Like, he is an to me, he's an Adrian Peterson talent. He's a once-in-a-lifetime body that you won't see, and I think he's going to prove it to everybody right away.
How can he be once in a lifetime if he's Adrian Peterson? That's twice in a lifetime for us.
It's just a saying, all right? Suck my dick.
I'm just calling you out, man. My question for you, because I like Fournette, I'm not as high on him as you are, but my question for you is, let's say you go running back late first round, you come back with Fournette in the second round. Are you making it a priority to scoop up Yeldon as a handcuff at some point in the draft, or are you not too worried about a handcuff in this situation? Because I know a lot of guys, just for example, like when you took like Jamal Charles with his injury history, like you always wanted to get his backup. When you took Adrian Peterson, you put such a high pick into him, you wanted his backup. Like, do you feel like you need Fournette's backup in this case, or no?
I've never been a huge handcuff guy, and plus I don't think Fournette's backup is going to be able to succeed they're going to do what they did last year, so I'm not going to get anything. And with my strategy going into this year, I'm already going to draft like 4 running backs and 4 wide receivers before I even draft another position.
Right.
So I don't think that I would need a handcuff. So I'm willing to take my chances, and I think that I can get another running back that will be able to fill in if I have that problem. I'm not going to waste a pick on a backup who's not going to end up playing in my lineup anyways because he'll be so bad. So,
right.
No, I'm not wasting a pick on Yeldon or Chris Ivory.
I think we need to get you in, as Mitchell Wren said a couple weeks ago, I think we need to get you in a 2-quarterback league just to make you change up your draft your philosophy, because you're pretty zoned in this year on your philosophy.
Yeah, man. I'm locked in, man.
0 quarterback, 0 tight end?
Well, I'm going to draft a quarterback just not until like the next round.
Just after everyone already has 2?
Yeah, most people will have 1.5 tight end. The quarterbacks, I mean.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you got your eye on a guy later and you think he's going to perform as a top 7-8 quarterback, I mean, I like that idea of drafting. Like you said, if you can steal 4 legit running backs and receivers and not have to worry about, am I going to play a guy that's going to get snaps, and you're focused in on having to pick a guy that is a backup for one of your guys that might get snaps if he's injured. I don't know. You might have sold me on a new strategy this year. So thanks.
I'm excited about it. I don't know.
Are you ready for my second guy that I'm zoned in on?
Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill.
No, not him.
No, F Tyreek Hill, F Matt Berry.
F Matt Berry. Fuck Matt Berry.
All those guys.
Fuck on this podcast.
That's right. We can. I'm trying to tone back after my.
Don't do that shit again.
After my outrage on Twitter DMs, man, I gotta rope myself back in.
All right.
So my second guy here, he's a higher ranked guy. It's Amari Cooper out of Oakland. So right now he is the 10th ranked receiver. His average draft position lands in the 2nd round. He's currently my 8th receiver, so I'm a little bit higher on him than a lot of consensus rankings. But I want him for a lot of reasons. People were a little down on him last year. I think Michael Crabtree sort of stole the show a lot of the weeks. But Cooper was still the 12th highest scoring receiver. He was only 1 point behind Crabtree. So actually that's kind of cool for the Oakland Raiders receivers. They had Crabtree at 11 and literally Cooper 1 point behind him at 12. if you look at last year, I'm going to give you a couple of numbers against some teams that are going to come into play here in a second. He scored 21.8 against the Chargers, whose defense, for every team that I tell you here, I'm telling you what their defense ranked against fantasy receivers last year. So he scored 21.8 against the Chargers last year, who were 10th, 12.9 against the Chiefs, who were 18th, 23.3 against the Buccaneers, who were 20th, 11.7 against the Texans, who were 5th, and 11.9 against the Bills, who were 13th. You might be asking, what am I throwing all these numbers out there for? But what that means is those are some decent defenses. They weren't all top 5, but they weren't like garbage defenses. So what that means to me is he can score any single week, and you never have to consider about, oh, shoot, do I need to bench this guy because he has a tough matchup? That's never going to cross your mind with this guy. So as a rookie, he had 72 catches, and then last year he went up to 83. He had over 1,000 yards both of those seasons. So right now he's not getting the warranted love like a guy like Mike Evans, Odell Beckham Jr. And the reason that he's not is because the touchdowns aren't there yet. He had 6 his rookie year and only 5 last year. So I think as the touchdowns come, he's going to start being in that same kind of class. So I think you should get him now while you have a chance. The last 2 years as well, since he's been there, Michael Crabtree's gotten more targets both of those years, but I think that's going to be flipped around this year because Cooper, when you look at him and you watch the tape, dude is an incredible route runner. We talk about it all the time. I personally think, based on your skill set, route running, and I think you disagree with me a little bit on this, but I'm huge into route running. I think it really separates some receivers basically from their competition. He's faster than most people think, and he's got that size and height to be a true number 1 option. The only questionable thing really about him right now is his hands are a little bit questionable. He's kind of like Brandon Marshall in that sense where he can do everything. It's just that concentration is sometimes a little bit lacking. Doesn't follow the ball in and he drops it. But when you're dealing with Derek Carr, I've checked out some numbers. Derek Carr doesn't throw to anyone outside of Crabtree and Cooper. Both of those had over 80 catches last year. Seth Roberts was 3rd on the team. He only had 38 catches. So I'm going to love my wide receiver position if I can get Amari Cooper as my number 1 receiver, and if I can get Jamison Crowder, my first guy, as my number 3 receiver, I'll be head over heels about my wide receiver position. So when it comes to Amari Cooper, I'm targeting him early to mid-second round if I have a pick right there. That's going to allow me to do like your kind of strategy. I can go best available running back in the first round, come back with Cooper, and then another running back receiver, and then at some point take Crowder. That's kind of my early strategy right now if I have that opportunity with that pick.
So wait, Cooper is getting drafted ahead of Devontae Adams?
Yeah, because he's better.
That's crazy talk. Like, I love Amari Cooper, and I love Derek Carr, and you know that more than anybody. I had them in 2 or 3 different leagues. I had that combination of 2 guys. And if you do draft both of them, just be patient.
Right.
Once the second half comes, they're going to score you some points, all right? But I love Amari Cooper, and I love Derek Carr, because they won me some games last year. That's for damn sure. And
right.
They waited till the second half, and they made me nervous. But I got to a point where I'm like, they're going to score.
It's 3rd, 4th quarter. It's time to go.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was like, I remember they came out one time, first play of like the second half, and scored like an 80-yard touchdown.
Right.
I was like, oh, second half. But yeah, I'm not going to argue at all. Yeah, I love both those guys. I'm a huge Amari Cooper fan. He's Alabama, so of course I like him.
Yeah.
For anybody who doesn't listen, I'm not a SEC or Bama fan. For some reason, I just have affinity for Bama players, so I don't know what it is.
It's your adopted college team.
Yeah, maybe. To me, Derek Carr is little A-Rod. Like, he's got that just quick, just awesome release. Good release that he has, and he does throw it to the outside receivers. No tight end threats there. He doesn't throw it to tight ends at all. Doesn't really throw it to the slot. So he's going to be throwing it to Cooper and Michael Crabtree a lot. Crabtree gets a lot of that, too. You could almost go either way with that. Crabtree's going to continue to get his touchdowns because Derek Carr does love him as well.
He does.
But it's just another year of Derek Carr and Amari Cooper together. But I find it amazing that Amari Cooper is being drafted ahead of I'll make another bet right now. I will bet that Devontae Adams outscores Amari Cooper in fantasy football this year.
So I think the reason I have Cooper higher in my rankings than Adams, because I'm not low on Adams.
Town.
What's that?
It's crazy town, dude.
No, it's not, because
yes, it is.
If you look at the Packers' offense, like you said, Rodgers he's hands down the best quarterback. You want players on the Packers, but he's throwing to Nelson. He's going to be throwing to Adams. He's going to be throwing to Cobb. They got 2 brand new tight ends that aren't going to be ignored. They drafted all these running backs. They have Ty Montgomery. There's only one ball that he going around. So I think in sheer opportunities, Amari Cooper, like I said, both Cooper and Crabtree had over 80 catches last year. Then third guy had under 40. So when it just comes to sheer targets, I believe Cooper was over 130 or 140 targets alone last year. He's going to get so many more opportunities.
30, yeah.
And like you said, Carr is kind of like that next up-and-coming quarterback. He's that next guy that's going to be throwing for 30, 35 plus touchdowns each and every year. And Cooper's only going to get better. I can't say it enough that if you could just give him like 3 or 4 more touchdowns, then that's actually saying a lot, because 3 or 4 more touchdowns is a good chunk when you already have 5 or 6. But he's going to be talked about like Mike Evans and Odell Beckham Jr. The talent is there.
Yeah, I mean, Crabtree outscored him last year.
By a point.
He had 8 touchdowns. By what?
1 point.
I have 7 points, according to my studies.
Oh, we might be on a different website. But regardless, they were like back-to-back in receiver rankings. And I'm with you. I think Crabtree's good. Crabtree's younger than most people think he is.
I know, but I'm just saying it. I don't even know why I'm saying it, but my argument is Devontae Adams. It's not even close. Like, the guy scored 12 touchdowns for a reason. He's going to be over 1,000 yards. I think he'll be near 1,200. He's got the best quarterback in the league. He's they're on the same page now. I don't understand. I can't take a younger quarterback with his young wide receiver over Aaron Rodgers with a receiver that he's really into. So I'll take Aaron Rodgers any day of the week with that wide receiver combination over Derek Carr and his wide receiver combination.
Yeah.
Cooper.
It's a good debate. I want to ask you, like, if both were there, if you would actually take Adams over Cooper, but I don't think it's a realistic question, because, like I said, if Cooper's going that early and if Adams is going to go in the 4th, I don't think Cooper's around in the 4th, so I don't think it's a realistic question.
I don't even understand how he's going that late. People drafting Devontae Adams in the 4th round are bananas to me. Bananas. That's crazy town. 19th wide receiver who, when he was the number 9th in the league last year, he's just going to get better.
People get scared.
Run the ball more?
People get scared though when they see the whole.
Who's going to run the ball more?
Yeah, I get that, but people get scared when they already see a receiver from one team being taken. So when Nelson's getting taken that high, it kind of like bumps that next guy down a little bit in my eyes.
Year in and year out, if you go look at the Packers wide receivers every freaking year, they have 2 guys with double-digit touchdowns and 1,000 yards like almost every year. Yeah. And it's like Jordy and Cobb, Devontae and Jordy. It's Jennings and Jordy. It's Jennings and Driver. They do that all the time. It's just what they do.
And that, I think, but it's almost like a carbon copy in Oakland. It's going to be Crabtree and Cooper again. And they don't have those outside guys. Some people are so high on Marshawn Lynch. I think he's fine, but I'm not. I think he's on my avoid list this year. Like I'm not sold on that Raiders running game idea.
Beast mode.
That's what you got. You got beast mode.
And they can block too. They can run block, dude. Don't forget that. The Raiders can run block.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm super high on Cooper. Like you said, it's not like you're not high on Cooper.
I'm not. Yeah, I love Cooper. I just think it's crazy that everybody's drafted Devontae below him.
You're just like crack cocaine high on Devontae Adams.
Yeah, I don't see why it wouldn't be.
I'm not.
I don't get it. I don't understand how people are so low on him. It's so frustrating.
I'm not opposed to it. We got time for a listener question here?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. Let's see. In my Dynasty League, would you trade Antonio Brown for the first overall pick, the first pick in the 2nd round, and then next year's first round pick? What you got?
You want me to go?
Sure.
I don't have much on this one. I think personally I would. So Antonio Brown, I think we discussed before this, he's 29 years old. The thing that worries me isn't his age, it's his quarterback. Roethlisberger keeps talking about retiring, and I call him bullshit, whatever. But if he actually did retire, Antonio Brown has not been successful with other quarterbacks.
Right. Such a great point.
On that team at all. So I would definitely take my chances with Roethlisberger talking all this retirement talk of grabbing a couple of young wide receivers who could it's a wide receiver league. There's going to be wide receivers that are going to take over this league every year coming up now, like Odell Beckham Jr. types, Mike Evans guys.
Amari Cooper guys.
Yeah, Mike Williams this year. So, I would absolutely make that train. I'm worried about, for a dynasty type league, yes, 100%. Because maybe you're going to regret it the 1 year, but...
Right, that's the thing.
Roethlisberger gets injured or he retires, so...
Right, and I agree with you. We have the same answer for different reasons. I thought about that, but it wasn't what I was going to say. I think your reasoning is spot on. If Roethlisberger does hang it up, AB's... I don't want to say he's disappeared in a fantasy sense when he's been gone, but he definitely isn't the normal Antonio Bryant when he has Roethlisberger throwing it to him. So yeah, I'm taking the picks. I love AB, but just look at like the last couple of years how receivers rotate atop like fantasy rankings. It wasn't very long ago when like Calvin Johnson was a top 3 guy. Now look, he's not even in the league. So I'm making the move now while you can still get a ton of guys. Look at the guys offering you with all those picks. So like DJ said, you might regret it for a year. Like Antonio Brown's, unless he gets hurt or Roethlisberger gets hurt, he's going to be an awesome receiver this year. There's no doubt about it. But if you can build for the future in that sense, I don't know. I'm pulling the trigger on the deal.
Yep. Nice.
Well, I hope you maybe if DJ and I are both going to be wrong, you can just go the other way with it and you'll be happy.
Yeah. Yeah, let us know who you take.
Yeah, let us know what you think. So, well, that's all we got for the day. Thanks for listening, as always. Tweet any questions. We'll make sure we try to get your listener questions answered on the podcast. We're found on Twitter at Loaded Box. As always, we're available on iTunes by searching Loaded Box. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. Stay tuned for our new news that we've got coming up here. We got some exciting things happening like we teased in the beginning. So thanks for listening, and we're out of here.
Bye.